Hey everyone, Meinke here from MLive&apos. Joined by Justin Rogers. Season finale on tap this weekend against the Chicago Bears, which means naturally the big topic of the conversation is Jim Caldwell and his future, which has not been decided, won't be decided until there's a GM in place. But this could be his last game as coach. And there's been a lot of conjecture about that. And I think at the halfway point of the season, Justin, you're with me in saying that there would have been a revolt on hand if the Lions brought back Jim Caldwell at 1-7 and just the disaster that was occurring. But they've had a very good second half. And I was very surprised when we posted a poll on MLive a couple days ago, and more than 62% of readers, people who voted, said they wanted Caldwell back, or they thought he should be back. That was surprising to me. Unsurprising to me was the support he has in the locker room. I talked to a lot of players today, including Calvin Johnson, about Caldwell. They all wanted him back as well. Calvin was particularly, enthusiastic about a return there. So my question for you, Justin, is: are you surprised at how much support Caldwell has for a return, particularly from the fans?
You know, I'd like to think that I have a pretty good pulse on what the fans are thinking, just with how much time I spend interacting with our readers on Twitter, through some other social media networks, and I swung and missed on this one a bit. Yeah. I really did think that the fans were more against Caldwell. You had mentioned this stat on Twitter and got similar results from one of the popular Detroit Lions blogs out there, who ran a similar poll. And,
Sideline report, we'll give you a shout out.
Yeah, I couldn't remember which one it was. that was the other thing. But, my belief generally is that all coaches deserve 3 years outside of extenuating circumstances. And, this is a weird situation where a new general manager is going to be coming in, but Caldwell's total body of work, now that we're looking at 2 full seasons pretty much, I think does merit another year for him. I don't think it should be forced on the next general manager, but still with the fickleness of fans in general in this really demanding industry where there's so many avenues for them to share their opinions, whether it's online, talk radio, whatever, and those are always the most extreme fringes of fans. I really thought more would want him gone. So yes, I'm definitely surprised.
This could be a situation where both of us run into this, just dealing with the internet and talk radio and stuff. But sometimes there's a vocal minority which kind of shapes public perception, even if it's not necessarily reflective of the overall population, if you will. And I think this is one of those situations. All I ever hear is, Lions can't bring him back, and how terrible he is, and all these things. And maybe there's a reason that he shouldn't be back, but I was very surprised to see more than 60% wanting him back. Just a surprise to me. You mentioned the winning and coming back for year 3 and so forth. Our friend Dave Brickett over at the Free Press had a very interesting statistic, which is if the Lions win the season finale in Chicago, Caldwell's going to have the highest lifetime winning percentage of any Lions coach. Can you really fire the winningest coach in your franchise's history? I mean, you can't, obviously, but should you? It creates a very interesting dynamic. It speaks, of course, to the long record of losing with this organization, but also just how good he was last year. 11-5 was the most wins by a first-year coach, and I believe players. I agree with players when they say he deserves a ton of credit for keeping this team together in the second half. This team could have quit. You see it all the time. You saw it in Miami just this year with Joe Philbin, but the Lions didn't quit on Caldwell. They've put together a pretty good second half. I know the schedule is not as good as it was in the first half. That is certainly a factor in why they've been able to win 5 and as many as 6 games in the second half. But they're playing better football. They're better on both sides of the ball. It could have been easy to quit. They haven't. I think it speaks to Caldwell and his command of the locker room, and that's a huge factor when determining whether a coach should return.
Now, I've already proven I don't have a pulse on the situation here, but building on what I feel like I'm getting from fans is they like Terrell Austin a lot. They like Jim Caldwell a lot. A lot of the questions I get are, how can these guys keep their jobs if Caldwell's let go? And, I think there's a reasonable chance that if Caldwell's let go, one of those two could save their job, depending on which direction they went with the head coach. But I think it would be very unusual for both. It just doesn't happen.
I would be surprised if it's ever happened.
Yeah.
Both coordinators. I mean, maybe it happened once somewhere in some random case, but it'd be very difficult.
And it's still better odds that both are gone. That's just the way it goes. So by keeping Caldwell, you keep some continuity across the staff. You keep the offensive coordinator that seemed to unlock something in Matthew Stafford in the offense. You keep the defensive coordinator that has thrived with bits and pieces in a lot of ways, with no Ndamukong Suh, no DeAndre Levy, his 2 best defensive players, and that defense has gone from it arguably one of the worst to the first half of the season, but really put it together in the second half of the year, and we'll get some of those pieces back plus whatever draft and free agency brings. So, yeah, keeping that all together, there's an argument for it.
For me, the bigger variable there is Kuder over Austin, and I think Austin's the better coach, but I also think Austin has a pretty good chance of getting a head coaching job. So regardless of what happens with Caldwell, Terrell Austin might not be back anyway. He almost got the Atlanta job last year. There's going to be several openings, as there always are. This year, I think he's going to be a leading candidate, so there's no guarantee he's back even if Caldwell is back. But with Kuder, 31 years old, he's not a head coaching candidate at this point. I think if Caldwell were back, it'd be a near certainty that Kuder is as well. And so you bring back Caldwell, you can pretty much guarantee that, and that's huge for the offense. Again, I know it's a small body of work, but when was the last time Matthew Stafford looked this good for this long? I asked him today how comfortable he felt, and he said, I'm not sure about comfort, but this is the most efficient I've ever played, and the statistics back it up. He's playing incredible football right now. Looks comfortable. I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum for a couple of weeks now, but the numbers are incredible. He's a top 5 quarterback in the league under Jim Bob Cooter. I think undergoing another schematic transformation for the third or fourth time in so many years, it would just deter his development even more. And when you're talking about the 8th year of Stafford, that's not what you want. You want to make sure there's growth there. Introducing a new scheme, I think, is probably not the right way to go.
Since we gave Burkett one shout out, I'm going to give him another one because he made another good point in the media room today, and he said, why don't you poll the fans again if they lose in Chicago? Mm-hmm. And he's spot on. If that happens, could go to hell real quickly.
Should we give Dave a byline on this video?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
That's what we got for today. The future of Jim Caldwell certainly will be on tap for us for several days now, for more than a week. So keep right here at MLive. For Destin Rogers, I'm Meinke.